Regardless, I could not leave Bremen without paying a visit to an old acquaintance.
Today, I'm going to share something exciting with you. I'm done cutting the feature. That means I'm done doing the rough cut. I have the whole thing laid out. I've done the heavy lifting. The cut itself is 97 minutes long and it's all laid out. What I was going to do today is start the process of addressing some of the director's notes. There's something really new and exciting that I'm using in this particular project, and it's Frame.io.
Welcome to Frame.io, the video collaboration platform for the world's premier video creators.
If you haven't heard, Frame.io is basically an online platform where I can directly upload cuts, have the director give me notes. I can take these notes back into Final Cut 10 or Adobe, it works on both systems, and address them. So I was going to go through this process with you and show you how much more efficient this process is. You basically can access Frame.io through a browser like this one, Safari, and then you'll see all the different projects that I'm currently working on. You might have seen 8 creativity hacks. That's the one that I just published on the channel. There's an editing course I'm doing. There's a new episode that's coming up. So each one of these is a project where I have different people working on it. If I go into the Whiplash one, for example, that we just did, you see here 2 different cuts in there. I'm only working with Aaron on this project. So he did most of the editing. I did like the final pass on it. If we look at the final cut that he delivered, you can see all my notes that I've given to the project right here. Let's go to this note, for example. So can we try, I really like your YouTube channel, cut, you invited me to a networking event. So we cut that out. In this version, that was still in there.
Your stuff, and if you had any pointers for me, and then you invited me to come to a networking event.
That's where we met. And then if you look at the final version of this, he actually took that out because I gave him that note. So all these notes he was able to consider when he did his next path. Now let's go back to the actual feature that I worked on. This is the feature. And here you see all the different versions of the film. Let's, for example, look at this version here in particular. This is one of the latest ones. The director gave me just some initial notes right here as he was watching. Now you notice he kind of stopped giving me notes over here for the rest of the feature. That is because he was actually flying over on the plane. He started giving me notes and then he came here. Then we watched the film together and he gave me some more notes. And that's the second step I'm going to do today. I actually took handwritten notes as we were watching the movie together, discussing how things are going. I have all these notes right here that I'm also going to incorporate into the cut. I'm thinking about actually first going into Frame.io, put them in there, because I have all the time codes written down where we decided to make changes. And then I'm going to bring those in as well. But in this first step, I'm going to just bring in the notes that he just gave me while he was on the plane. The nice thing with Frame.io is it actually is an app that you can open up directly in Final Cut 10 and I believe now also in Premiere. And here you also see all my folders. Here's the feature. Let's go in there. And this is the one where he gave me the notes. Now what I can do is I can actually bring these notes into this timeline. So if I open this up, you see these notes here and you see this link button. I can find a spot in the movie. Let's take the very first shot here. I'm playing backwards. This is the very first shot right here. Now I'll go into this video. And I look for that first shot as well. Here's some temp credits. So now I'm actually playing this in Frame.io. And I'm waiting for that frame to come up right here. Frame by frame, I can jump here. Now I press this link button. And now both timelines are sunk up with each other. So if I go to a note, let's say I want to address this note right here. So he's writing, this carriage also drove through a village. So there's another shot that I could use. He says, I don't have to use it, but it's there if you need it. So that's nice to know, and I actually want to use that shot in the village at a later point in the movie to just give like a little B-roll transition. Let's find something where I actually need to address a note. So for example, we're at this point and he writes, this is not perfect how the little boy is looking. Maybe we don't have it in a different way, then it's not such a big deal. What I'm sensing here is the director tells me, okay, there's something off with the shot and I might want to consider a different take. Let's look at this for a second. Okay, so we're looking at this. Look, he had a little bit of a problem right there. Let me look at this in more detail. It might be a little choppy. I might want to consider just holding on that shot a little bit longer. So before I address any of these notes, because as soon as I address these notes, the sync is going to shift in this cut. And I want the notes to stay with the sync point. So instead of doing the notes right now, I'm going to bring the notes into Final Cut 10. And this is how this works. You have a little button here that you can use. And it says drag and drop this comment clip into our Final Cut Pro timeline. So I'm going to take this and just put it anywhere here in the timeline and let it go. What happens is that this compound clip appears, and I'll just drag it to the very beginning so that it lines up with my cut. And you can see on top here, there's a time code now that's added. And as I'm going through the different notes, you see there's a little marker here. Whenever I go to a specific marker, I can actually see the notes in the cut. And then the only other step I have to do, this is a combination of several clips. And I can break this up, which I just did with the shortcut. And now all the notes are markers that are now attached directly to these different shots. Let's say I'm going to move this shot. What should happen is that all these markers are now moving with the cut. And that's what they do. So they stay synced to the specific shot or clip that they're meant for. So I don't really need this time code right here. I'm going to just delete that. And then these markers drop down here. And the reason why they are up top here is because they're actually technically on a different layer, or what they in Final Cut 10 call a different roll. And these are the comments. So if for some reason I'm done with the notes, I want all the notes to disappear before I output, I just click on here and then they're invisible. Each roll that I have here, voiceover, dialogue, effects, music, as soon as I click on them, they disappear. See that? They're now all grayed out. So if I play this right now, we don't hear the dialogue. I'll bring the dialogue back.
Eine moderne Dampfschiffs. Heißt, sie müssen immer wieder die Weser ausbaggern. Wozu dann dieser Hafen?
And they're back. So if I go to this note and I'll put the comment back up, now I can go ahead and start addressing these notes. That's step number one. Now let's talk about these handwritten notes that I got. So I go back into Frame.io, and these notes are actually from a different cut. And I wrote down the date from March 8th. I outputted this cut the day before we met. This should have matching time code. The first note is, and I believe I did an episode about this. She poisoned this little boy, and she also poisoned her. The way that I cut it, I show how she gets the poison out, but I don't show which bowl she picks. So this is where I show the two bowls. And right here, I cut away from it. The director says, let us see which bowl she picks so that we know that she is gambling. That she is okay, that the friend that is with her, she's going to let her pick which bowl she's going to eat. And if she was going to pick the right bowl, meaning the one without poison, she would survive our serial killer would pick the other one, because she just gets a kick out of this playing like Russian roulette here. So show her pick the bowl. I'll put that in here. The node appears there. The node also appears here. So I now at 44:15, I need to address that node. The director also has the node to give the boy more screen time, to show how cute he is, so that we feel for him more.
Hans, Finger da weg.
Weißt du, was das ist?
So somewhere here, I'm going to have to milk this moment more. Give this boy maybe another close-up, a little bit more of interaction between him and the senator. I'm just going to write here, more screen time for the boy. That's my note. Boom. So at 41:47...
Eine Mamsell Beta Schmidt aus der Pelzerstraße. Sie bittet zur Gottfried-Witwe vorgelassen zu werden.
Das heißt, ich darf sie besuchen.
Okay, this line right here. So, director asked me to take out, das heißt, and keep, ich darf sie besuchen, which means I can visit her. Keep, ich darf sie besuchen. So now I actually refined the note even more. That beginning of the sentence sounded weird to him, and it might play better that way. Okay, so now you've seen I've done a couple of notes over here. Let's say I have written all the notes into the cut. Now I could go back to Final Cut 10, and now we're looking at a different cut. So I'll bring that one up. Now I have my notes here, and I can again do the thing with the import and drag it into here, into the same timeline, address those notes. I want to show you another way how I can also do it, and that is through the actual website. So I can press this button and say download for Final Cut 10.4 or later. That's the version I'm on. So it's going to download those. I'm going to put them in whatever folder I want to. And then I go into that folder, double click on this file that I created. It'll ask me which library I want to put it. I want it in this library. And then it's created a new event where this guy is in. Now I can bring that into my timeline again like this. So there are two ways of doing it, and just line it up again with the beginning. And you see that note that I've just given now appears in that timeline again. I'll break this clip apart. I don't need the time code. And this note is now fully integrated here, and I can address those notes. So the note was to remove part of this line.
Das heißt, ich darf.
So somewhere here.
Ich darf sie besuchen.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to smooth this out with a little audio fade at the beginning.
Ich darf sie besuchen.
Können Sie.
So now that I've addressed this note, double click on this. I'll say completed, press done, and it turns green. These are some options of how I can work with these notes. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview. Once I'm done, and I want to send this back to the director so that he can see how the notes are working, I'll share it back to Frame.io. Usually I want to share it in H.264, which makes it a smaller file. I'm cutting in 4K. That's going to be a huge file. Now the entire movie is 6.22 gigabytes as opposed to, I don't know, 30 gigabytes or something. And then it would immediately start uploading this project into the right folder so that only the people that I have authorized to see this particular project can see it. It's starting to share it directly in Final Cut 10, which is nice. I'm actually going to stop it because I obviously don't want to have this appear in Frame.io because I haven't really addressed anything yet. That's what I'm going to do next. If this is something you're interested in to improve your workflow, I've been using it now for the past 4 months or so. As I said, I have all the different projects that I work in. I have different collaborators in each project right here. This is a project that I, myself, and Dennis is working on. This is the feature. This is where the director and myself work in. This is an upcoming video that you will see soon. This is an editing course that I'm currently building with Vinny and Steve together. And you can see there are quite a lot of items in there. Like each module has several videos in there. This is not just a software-based tutorial. This is really about storytelling. So you'll see a lot of advanced editing concepts used to shape a story. And then in a later module, it really is also about your career as an editor. Almost daily, I get asked this question more than any other. How do I become a working editor? How you brand yourself as an editor, that you are portraying a promise of an experience, and how you then can turn that great experience that a director or producer might have and leverage that up and develop your career. And then in the later modules, we're actually doing some genre editing. So we have actual footage from a feature, actual footage from a documentary, actual footage from branded content. This module is about branded content. It is really the bread and butter of many editors. This is where you can make consistent, good money. It's an important genre that you need to be working in and do exercises in. The students will get to cut scenes and cut like story arcs and build like almost an entire act for each genre. That's part of this course that will come soon. So if you're interested to try Frame.io, I believe they have a free trial, and I'll include a link in the video description. Go check that out. You can have like 1 or 2 projects with like a couple of collaborators in there. Yeah, so in the upcoming episodes on Patreon, I will now go through the notes. We have about 2 weeks before the director comes back. And then the director will actually sit with me together, and we're going to record an episode on Patreon together where we're going to answer your questions about this project. So if you've seen all the previous episodes or some of them, and you have some specific questions for the director about maybe the process of what it took to shoot this film and what the collaboration was like, just leave a comment and I will bring those questions up during our session. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Okay, this is all working for me. I'm going to just double check and make sure this master is the best one. I can see here the red. This is the master that I ended up using. Anything that's in the timeline will have a little red marker here.